The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Doug is doing his Trump dance.
I didn't even realize it. You're right, I was. Yeah. That's horrible. That's a great dance. No, Mr. President, no, boss. It's not horrible. It's not horrible at all. No, I like it. I love it.
It's a good dance.
Good boy, good boy.
Also, like most good dances, you're doing it seated.
What's the name of the show and who sponsors us,
Welcome
Dick?
to the Dick Morris Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold.
Okay, now you're on.
Okay. What's going on now with illegal immigration has entered a completely new phase. And Trump is on top of it, but we all have to stay up to date with it. In the past, the illegal immigration has been an attempt to upgrade their status, to give them more money, to exploit benefits, to get food stamps, to get Medicaid, to get all the goodies that the liberals are giving to illegal immigrants. But lately, particularly with people from Somalia, which is on the Horn of Africa, right around the Red Sea, and strategically located because it controls access to the Red Sea, which in turn controls access to the Suez Canal. These folks are coming here not to improve their lives, not to develop a new place for their family. They're coming here as part of an invasion, literally, to occupy and take over America and acquire political power here and use it to advance Islamic outrages.
Kind of like the Michigan crew, whatever they're called.
Michigan and Minnesota.
And Minnesota, what are they called? The something crew?
The crew.
Something like
that.
The
squad.
The squad, yeah.
In a Thanksgiving message late Thursday night, President Trump attacked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, criticizing his intellectual capacity, and also attacked Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
As part of a lengthy denunciation of Minnesota's large Somali community, which has recently come under scrutiny. Early Friday, the White House pushed out a post over X and Truth Social, where Trump made his remarks, calling them one of the most important messages ever released by President Trump. Read every word, Trump said. Trump claimed that Somali refugees are completely taking over Minnesota. Hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey, as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they'll be left alone. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, who Harris named for vice president,
seriously retarded,
Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both. And then he set his sights on Somali-born Ms. Omar, a prominent, influential member of AOC's far-left squad. The worst congresswoman in our country, Ilhan Omar.
Just call her Omar. Just forget the first name, Omar.
Always wrapped in her spot.
I'll think of a good nickname for her before you end this thing.
Always wrapped in the hijab. Probably came to America illegally, in that you're not allowed to marry your brother. Does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she's treated.
So forget Omar, but just call her inbred.
Okay. Who is how badly she's treated when the country she comes from, the place of origin, is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation. Trump also said the overall impact of the immigrant population in America is much higher than the figure of 53 million people, and that the refugee burden is the leading cause of American ills. Trump said, most of which are on welfare from failed nations, or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. They and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic Americans who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. This is continuing to quote Trump. This refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II. Failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages, and large deficits. Now we're off Trump, but commentary. The social community in Minnesota is not typical of the immigrant experience in New York. Minnesota is home to approximately 80,000 Somalis, the largest such population in America. In the early 1990s, Minnesota's dominant Lutheran church welcomed tens of thousands of Somalis to the state, and as an act of charity during a time when Somalia was in violent collapse. The community's continued to grow in Minnesota is controversial due in part to perceptions that its closed, inward society is uninterested in integrating with other Minnesotans. For some, the Orthodox form of Islam practiced by some Somalis. Crime, despite Trump's commentary, is not considered outsized as a problem among Somalis in Minnesota. In November, a young Somali-American state senator, Omar Fatah, made a strong, if ultimately unsuccessful, campaign for Minneapolis mayor, a campaign which caused alarm in some anti-immigrant circles and public condemnation from Steve Miller, one of Mr. Trump's most senior advisors, who posted on X a video of Mr. Fatah campaigning in Somalia and waving a Somalian flag. On Thursday, the president directed officials to review all green cards issued to individuals from Somalia and 18 other countries. The announcement came just days after he declared his intention to end temporary protected status for Somali residents in Minnesota, alleging that Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state. Later Thursday, Trump said he would halt immigration from all of the term's third world countries to enable the immigration system to recover. Over the weekend, Trump said in another post on Truth Social that he would terminate the temporary protected status for all Somalis in Minnesota. Homeland Security Secretary Christine O.M., who will need to figure out how to illegally carry out his order, said on Sunday that there was no timeline for ending the status protections. Miss Omar has said that while pulling TPS would be offensive, oh, what a shame, it would not affect very many Somalians now in Minnesota. Community leaders from Somalia's Minnesota population, along with Democratic legislators and advocacy organizations, have condemned the president's remarks targeting their community. Well, that's what they do. They want to say, oh, it's racist, it's this, it's that, it's bigotry, to stop you from having conversation. Right. Too bad. But this is a huge change in federal policy and a huge change in Trump's direction. Canceling TPS for the Minnesota Somalis is a great start. Next, review all asylum, refugees, and citizenship applications for any hint of fraud or technical error. Then initiate denaturalizations and mass deportations up to the furthest limits of the law. They have to go home. This is the classical Muslim and Islamist plan is to infiltrate the West by getting real people to ask to come here to change their lives and to improve their lives.
True refugees.
Right. And then capitalize on their presence to exert political power.
Exactly. Well, didn't Obama send a bunch from Westchester Airport over to Minnesota? I don't know if it was Westchester Airport.
Well, not just that. The entire focus of ICE under Biden was to distribute the
under Biden or
under
Obama?
Biden.
Okay, Biden.
Was to distribute the immigrant population, illegal immigrant population, into swing states.
Right.
And they deliberately worked to create islands of illegal immigrants,
right,
who would vote Democrat.
Well, Astorino took pictures of this back then.
Yeah, that's right.
Our good friend.
At the airport.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, from Westchester, I think they went maybe to Minnesota. But I'm going to call him O'Biden from now on, not Biden anymore. O'Biden. Go on, Dick.
The whole thing here is that we're talking about a major effort to change the politics of America by creating enclaves of radical Muslim refugees, so-called, who are here really as provocateurs and infiltrators. And it's like the communists used to do. And they would they create a constituency here that our democracy has to be responsible to, who are anti-American.
And then you have the politically correct and to touch the hearts of the liberals that it's racist if you talk against them, and if you don't want them here, all of a sudden. As a matter of fact, coming up very soon, we got On the Rocks. She's going to talk about this with these poor people that were shot. And
bear in mind,
the National Guard people.
Yeah, of course. And bear in mind that the goal here is to create a constituency that can't be outvoted. Get 80,000 Somalians into Minnesota.
80,000.
That's right. That's how many have come. And therefore work on carrying Minnesota.
What is Minnesota? What is the population, roughly?
About 10 million.
So 80,000, that's almost 10%.
Very significant.
It's almost 10%.
Very significant.
Wow.
And that's why.
And you know they're going to be voters. That's why you're putting them there.
That's right. It's a little bit like Russia in the 20s, 30s, really ending in the 70s, deliberately got people, Russians, to move to other countries, to move to Ukraine, to move to Moldova, to move to other Russian satellites.
For the political vote?
For their votes.
Wow. You're talking about infiltration.
To create, not just votes, but infiltration of the whole society.
Wow.
And then the Russians are now taking that population and saying we're invading Ukraine, we may invade Moldova because we want to save the Russians in those places. Mm-hmm. They're being discriminated against.
Wow. How long ago was that when they first infiltrated? In the 30s.
On Stalin's orders.
Oh, okay.
He looked at the map of Russia and he said, hey, the Russian people, the white Russians, the people who are actually Russian, are close to becoming a minority in the Soviet Union. We have to force them to move to these new territories, these other countries.
Wow.
And then we can invade those countries claiming we're just protecting Russian culture and Russian lives and Russian language. And that was the strategy they used in Ukraine and in Moldova, which is right near Romania.
Just recently now.
Well, in the 20th century, last century. And that is really in effect what's going on now with the illegal immigrants coming into the U.S. They're an advance guard of shock troops whose goal is to infiltrate American society and turn areas that are loyally American into Somalian.
What do you call them? Shock groups?
Shock troops.
Shock troops. And what is that? Tell me what that is.
Well, shock troops with the first wave you send into a country.
Oh, yeah.
And you expect large casualties, but
this is not military people. This is just people
civilians,
in there. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Voters.
Yeah, got it.
And,
interesting.
And what Trump is talking about is really the conversion of Minnesota into Minnesota-stan. And making Minnesota not a swing state.
Obama was doing that.
But a swing country.
Listen, Obama said it early on. It's not a Christian nation anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't he say that? It was built on those people.
But that includes a lot of people who came here just as immigrants.
Sure.
Here we're talking about a deliberately planned invasion. Mr. Rufo, I forget his first name, from who wrote the article for the conservative publication City Journal, says that funds from large-scale fraudulent schemes in Minnesota are funneled to Al-Shabaab, a Somali terrorist organization operating in Mogadishu in Sudan, totaling millions of dollars. Our investigation shows what happens when a tribal mindset meets a bleeding heart to bureaucracy, which imported clan loyalties collide with a political class too timid to offend. And when the accusations of racism are cynically deployed to shield criminal behavior. While Al-Shabaab is officially classified as a terror group by the State Department, it focuses its attention on the Somali Civil War and was not believed to have operated outside of East Africa. Many Somali American young men, however, have left Minnesota for Somalia to join the militia. So you're talking about a deliberate infiltration of the United States, and its goal is to create majority-minority Muslim districts that will vote Islamic. And they've basically taken over the state of Minnesota. There's one congressional district represented by Omar, whatever her name is.
Yeah, inbred. Omar inbred.
Which has completely become a Muslim state, Muslim district. And their goal is the goal of the liberals is to concentrate the Islamic community in certain areas, certain states, and then use those to transform swing states into democratic states over the illegal immigration.
I mean, we see this happening, but to hear this story that you just said really pinpoints it and shows us what's going on.
And it's using the playbook that they've used throughout the Western world.
Sure. Like you said with Russia. And like you said with Russia.
Yeah.
Why? What about France?
Well, France, the Muslim population has grown to almost 15% of the vote.
Wow. And Germany too, right? I don't know how much, but
less, but still a lot.
Italy somewhat, I think.
Not much. Well, yeah, they come through Italy, but they don't stay there. But the point is that they are taking the democratic rules of the West and using it to create Muslim majorities that will support terrorism and support illegal immigration.
And you know what the thing is, coming into all these countries and now to us is, and this is why it's not going to happen here, they have this Sharia law. You can't walk into their neighborhood. I can't walk you're going to tell me I can't walk my dog down your street? I don't think so, pal. That's the problem right there. I hear in Italy, certain places in Rome, you can't go to a certain neighborhood that's Sharia law. It does not coincide with our values whatsoever.
Right. But it's important for us to realize that the transitions Trump has gone through in his own mind. First, the issue was immigration. Then the issue was jobs in America. The issue is taking jobs away from Americans. Now the issue is an invasion. It literally is to change the demography of the United States.
Invasion,
so that Muslim extremists come to dominate the politics. And they flipped a House district in Minnesota, one of, I think, 10 congressmen from Minnesota, and they've increasingly flipped to Minnesota.
How many? 10? You just said 10 are now roughly?
No, there are 10 districts total in Minnesota, and one of them has now flipped. And the Senate seat in Minnesota has increasingly flipped. And this is because of the deliberate policy of immigration, infiltration, and invasion that's going on.
Well, you got the complacency of us, Republicans, and then you have the bleeding heart liberals.
Yep.
So those two things. So one thing's going to change is the complacency. It's about time we stand up and say, F you.
Speaking of bleeding heart liberals, the New York City Council wants a raise.
Yeah, well, we're gonna come back with this right after the break because we got a break, right? Riff raff in the outside. When we come back, but first we're gonna have Rocks on the Rocks because she's gonna talk about the National Guard. These poor two people.
Hey, welcome, Rock.
Welcome, Rock. But we're gonna have you on the way on the flip side. Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Roxana.
We got Roxana Maria on the Rocks.
Has some interesting comments.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Rox.
These killings of the National Guard were not really murders; they were assassinations.
Why do you say it that way?
Well, they were called they called the cops. They called the National Guard in, and responding to a call, these unfortunate man and woman showed up.
Hence assassination.
And they walked into ambush, assassination.
All right.
So, Rock, it's great to have you on.
And we're all sharing in that profound sorrow of these tragic shootings of the two National Guard members, U.S. Army Specialist Sarah Speckstrom, 20 years old, whose life was tragically lost, and U.S. Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, 24, who remains in critical condition, fighting valiantly for his life. President Trump announced to implement a permanent pause on third world immigration into the United States, treating this incident as an act of terrorism. And I'd like to share something that was written for Sarah Spectrum.
A poem, right? Rocks? It's a poem?
Yes, and I don't know who to give it credit to, but it's so beautiful. So this is for Sarah.
Okay.
Sarah stood tall where eagles dare fly, armor of heart against the darkening sky. Red, white, and blue in her brave, steady gaze, angels now call in eternity's haze. Brave volunteer from West Virginia's green, eternal sentinel pure as a dream. Courage like fire, no shadow can dim, guarding the world with her light from within. Stars weave her name in the midnight soft gleam, a soldier's spirit, forever supreme. Riding the winds where the faithful hearts roam, wings of gold, she still guides us home. Her father held close in heaven, soft wing echoes of laughter as tears gently fall. Comforting loved ones, she still answers their call. Kneel now and whisper her unbreakable song. Sarah's bright flame makes broken hearts strong. Through every tomorrow, her light leads the way, rising forever. Our hero, our day. Oh, sing it immortal from galaxies near, a world united in love, not in fear.
Wow.
To quote her father's words, my baby girls pass to glory. These tragedies against those who chose service evoke deep feelings of sadness, but also strengthen that which we forgot our country's foundation was built, God, country, service. To Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, we pray you're restored to health safely, supported by your family and our country. And may we remember, lastly, perceiving life as a miracle is a profoundly comforting way to assign meaning even in loss. And may God shed his grace. Amen.
That was beautiful, Rock.
Amen. Oh,
you know,
wonderful.
Rock, you always come up with this.
Yes.
I got to chill.
I know.
She just
Incredible.
she adds something.
They volunteered. They were young.
Yeah.
They believed in what they were doing. And there's so much conversation about why the National Guard is in this city or Chicago. And the whole reason being is to make all of us safer.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not permission for somebody to come and assassinate someone that's doing their duty as Americans.
Not just permission, but enticement. This was an ambush.
It's tragic, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rock.
And did you want to say something to Dick Morris, Rock?
I did. A belated happy birthday, Dick.
Oh, thank you.
It was Dick
Thank you.
Morris's birthday.
Thank you.
You listen.
It's not belated. My birthday lasts for a year.
Oh, you're one of those?
Well,
You have
that
like
is true.
birthday month?
Yeah.
Birthday
Right,
whatever.
right.
Dick,
Birthday
the other
month.
Rock, the other day, last year, he said he was 78, but he was 77. So I said to him the other day, I go, what's with the lying about your age? Usually you lie you're younger. He goes, I'm proud I'm going to be 80.
Yeah.
He goes, I got to, what'd you say?
I can't wait to be 80.
Listen to this idiot.
Yeah.
Where did he come up with
Well,
this?
there's dignity
He's
to
in
that.
his 78th
How old are you?
year.
I'm 80 years old. I mean, I'm 78.
That he
Yeah,
made it. It's
that's
like
okay.
his achievement.
Yeah, that's right.
All right,
It is.
Rock,
I can't
thank
wait
you
to
so
see you.
much.
All right, you're welcome.
Me too.
Thank you. All right.
Um,
The city council wants a raise. Well, I thought the socialist guy wants to give all their money away. Anyway, the city council is planning to vote on giving its members and other local elected officials, including the mayor, Mr. Socialist guy, pay raises in the final days of this year's legislative session, the Daily News learned. Councilwoman Natasha Williams, a Democrat who represents a slice of southeastern Queens, plans to introduce a bill Tuesday that would enact the raises according to three sources familiar with the matter. Exact details of legislation weren't immediately known, but one of the sources said it's likely to be modeled on a compounded 16% cost of living increase that municipal workers recently received retroactively over a 5-year period. Really, retroactively, they're going to get. Does that mean they're going to get their money from 5 years ago till
Right.
now?
Right.
16%. Really? Oh my God. Williams told, so they're not happy? the last 5 years. Williams told the News on Sunday that her bill proposed raises would bump council members' salaries about $172,500. The mayor currently makes about $258,000, while the public advocate pulls in about $184,000. This is crazy. And the city comptroller earns roughly $210,000. Borough presidents, who are also expected to be impacted by any raises enacted by the council, make around $180,000. That's some jack to be made right there, Dick Morris.
Look at the calendar. This is the first few days of December, and that's after the election. So you can go ahead and vote these raises now because you don't have to run for anything. You're already elected.
Oh my God!
And that's why politicians always raise their salary
like a month
in the
before
closing days of their term. And there are two reasons for that. One is to get those who aren't running again or lose a raise on their out the door. But more importantly, so nobody can vote against them because they're already elected.
Wow, that's unbelievable. But listen, what's her name? AOC said when she was running for Congress, I believe that you should take 90% of all your earnings and all your wealth and give it to people. Socialistic idealism, right? Well, shouldn't they give? They all want the socialist mayor.
That's called the income tax.
Yeah. No, but they all want to be the socialist, Manhattan. Let's go. Give 90% of your jack away, Jack.
Now, very often in this show and in our political world now, you have to revisit issues that you looked at before because there's a new dimension you got to oppose. And the reason you originally opposed it becomes a little obsolete when you look at the new reasoning. Mm-hmm. And that's true of Obamacare. When it was passed, people said that it would increase costs dramatically, that it would reduce the quality of care. And it absolutely has.
Because basically, doctors aren't getting paid what they want to get paid because the insurance company is not paying them. So doctors are bailing out. They're retiring early. New doctors are coming in they could be dunderheads for all we know. So go on. So that's one of the reasons.
So Republicans agree with the Democrats increasingly that Obamacare went awry. Many experts and even some Democrats recognize that while the program did make health care coverage more affordable for 24 million Americans, at one point it essentially backfired. And that backfire is something I'd like to talk about and explain now, because that's increasingly going to be a fundamental issue that Congress will come upon.
They seem to always have backfire. And 24 million Americans out of 300 plus million isn't much.
Bill Cassidy, the senator from Louisiana, a Republican, said on November 29th that I think there's remarkable agreement between Democrats and Republicans. Obamacare failed to give access to all Americans to health care, and Obamacare failed to control health care costs. Even before the enhanced tax credits came online, premiums had more than doubled since 2013, the year before Obamacare started. By 2025, the increase reached 133%, 4 times the rate of inflation. With traditional health insurance and other forms of insurance, the price to the customer is based on the risk to the insurer and the type of coverage they choose. But Obamacare is different. A key selling point of Obamacare was that it largely ended the practice of excluding or charging people more for health coverage due to pre-existing conditions. No one would be denied coverage due to illness, and all plans were required to offer the same set of minimum benefits.
See, that's okay. I'm okay with if you have pre-existing and you still could get your health care. That was okay. Trump left that in.
As this one-size-fits-all system treats high and low-risk customers the same, many younger, healthier people left the market, leading to higher premiums.
Right.
And because pre-existing conditions were not a barrier to coverage, these consumers enter the market only when they become ill, raising costs even higher.
Senator
Ron Johnson said, These increases spread across the industry because Obamacare Affordable Care Act requires insurers to offer Obamacare compliant policies to individuals and small groups in the commercial market. So you required them to insure everybody, and the lobbyists who pounced on Obamacare as it was going through set up a system where everything was covered and was required to be covered. Chiropractors are a good example. Psychologists, psychiatrists, addiction counselors, and everything became health care. And they all came in under the label of Obamacare. And because everybody had to be covered for everything, it became
impossible
for inflation.
Right.
That's right.
Impossible for the insurers to pay.
But in the meantime, gross federal subsidies of Obamacare now stand at an estimated $138 billion per year. These subsidies masked the premium increases and allowing them to rise virtually unchecked. By 2024, 80% of Obamacare's customers qualified for plans costing them no more than $10 per month, according to the Treasury Department. That created a spiral to keep pushing the cost up. Higher premiums created pressure for still more subsidies. More subsidies lock in a high-cost system and permit large insurance and hospital chains to remain inefficient. That raising premiums also drove our general market consumers who did not qualify for a subsidy, causing even further increases. We've priced the system now so heavily with government subsidies that it crowds out the private shopper.
The private shopper. That's what
Oz said this. And when the enhanced tax credits were introduced in 21, 42% of the insured population qualified for a policy that had a $0 premium. To boost and maintain enrollment during the health emergency, COVID, eligibility checks were relaxed and automatic enrollment started. So these factors made the program ripe for fraud and abuse.
Sure.
So it had a system when everybody could come in, get covered for everything. Everything became health care. And the system of checking their income and eligibility washed away during COVID.
Yeah, this one guy said the unscrupulous vendors promised enrollees cash benefits and others were moved from one plan to another without their consent. So there's a fraud going on right there. Yeah, come to my house. I'll give you free stuff.
Yep.
While the Democrats acknowledge that rising health care costs are a problem, they said it's not related to Obamacare. Of course they did. Proposed solutions generally involve increasing corporate taxes and cracking down on corporate abuses. Insurance premiums are skyrocketing, Representative Jonathan Jackson of Illinois told the Times. He named government negotiations on drug prices and higher corporate taxes as a partial solution. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, Democrat, said in November that reducing health care costs means reining in insurance companies' abuses across the health care system. Republicans generally favor market-based reforms that give consumers more control over their health care spending. The free market guarantees three things, Johnson said: the lowest possible price and cost, the best possible quality, and the best level of consumer services.
Yep.
Now, doesn't Trump want to give the money?
So Trump's proposal is increasingly to bypass the insurance companies and give the money directly to the people. And that would probably be done by beefing up their health savings accounts, which are a way that you can give money to yourself for health care. And take advantage of the tax laws.
And that's the low and middle income people.
Yep.
Which is important to say. He's not going to give it across the board.
Yep.
Which makes sense. And we still don't know this. We talked about this last week. Is it going to be a gift card just for health care? It's going to be like a credit card of some sort,
I think it's probably going to be
a bank account.
I think it'll be that. I think that Trump will take...
I'm calling it a gift card.
Yeah, Trump will take the money that was being voted in Obamacare subsidies and say, instead of giving this to the insurance companies to administer, we'll give it back to the individual, and he can set up a health savings account.
That they could only use it for that. They can't take it and go buy groceries or go buy...
Or go buy drinks.
Oh, drinks, right. No, okay, that's it. So It's basically a gift card.
So when we come back, Trump said the U.S. is just on the cusp, that was his phrase, of realizing the full benefits from the tariffs he's imposed.
Yeah.
Only on the cusp. It's coming in.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. When Trump first imposed the tariffs on, I think it was April 4th, the foreign companies and countries initially stockpiled goods to dodge duties that were finally running through their inventories. In a lengthy Truth Social post, Trump said that despite hundreds of billions of dollars already collected, true tariff revenue has been artificially suppressed by importers who stock up by purchasing far more inventory than they can use.
Totally understandable for them.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lower price, so they grab as much as they can.
But now they ran out.
The heavy inventory purchase, however, is wearing thin, Trump said, and soon tariffs will be paid on everything they apply to without avoidance. The huge amounts payable to the U.S. Payments to the U.S. will skyrocket and eventually minimize the historic levels of dollars already retrieved. He said that the coming wave of payments would be record-setting and claimed it would help propel the country into new and unprecedented course, strengthening both economic security and national security. Those opposed to his tariff strategy, Trump said, are serving hostile foreign interests that are not aligned with the success, safety, and prosperity of America. The president ended his post by urging the Supreme Court to rule swiftly on a major case that could determine whether his sweeping tariff authority can continue unimpeded. I look so much forward to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on this urgent and time-sensitive matter so that we can continue in an uninterrupted manner to make America great again, he wrote. Trump said that the United States is only now on the cusp of realizing the full benefit of his tariff agenda, arguing that foreign buyers who initially stockpiled goods to avoid and dodge duties are finally running through their inventory. Hundreds of billions of dollars already collected. True tariff revenue has been artificially suppressed by importers who stock up. That strategy is no longer sustainable. That heavy inventory purchase is now wearing thin, and soon tariffs will be paid on everything. Those opposing tariff strategies are serving foreign interests. So Trump is really saying that as these tariffs sit there and become more and more effective and more products are covered by them, the revenues to the American government are going to soar, and that'll enable the rebates, the $2,000 tax.
And maybe eliminating federal taxes at one point.
And maybe sharp reductions or elimination even of income tax.
That's amazing.
Can
you imagine that?
Yeah, well, the fundamental element of Trump's proposals, of Trump's tariffs, is to transform the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, into the ERS, the External Revenue Service, and to use subsidies from other countries that we earned by overpaying for their goods for 50 years into subsidies to American taxpayers.
So, it's so important right now what the Supreme Court does with this, because if they allow him to continue, it's going to change the whole face of the United States.
Of the whole world.
The whole world.
Yeah.
If they stop it, but they have to look at that,
well,
right?
There's increasingly commentators are saying they believe that the court will side with Trump on this. And they're reading between the lines of things justices said during the oral arguments. And I believe that it's going to be a favorable decision. And that will absolutely open the floodgates.
And when is this happening, Supreme Court?
In the next few weeks.
Good. Because once again, if they do not side with our boss,
we have to pay back hundreds of billions of dollars.
Forget about the midterms. If they side with the boss, the midterms are in our favor.
That's
so
true.
This is a lot going on right here.
Absolutely. And it's tending in the right direction for us.
You think?
Yeah, I think that...
That's the first time you're saying this. I didn't hear you say this yesterday.
Well, I think that the judges are realizing that they can't make this kind of fundamental change in America by pulling the rug out from under the president's entire economic agenda.
Tell me what the law is that he's being sued for.
Yeah, the charge is that he's misusing emergency powers. That he went to Congress and said, you got to let me raise these tariffs. In fact, you got to let me do it without congressional approval because it's an emergency. And Trump is increasingly emphasizing that it's an emergency.
So we have to prove that it is an emergency.
Yeah.
And how is he going to do that? Just the economy? How's he going to prove that?
The economy and his statements and the statements of economists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's going to succeed at that. We'll see. But the predictions of observers are that we're going to win on that. And when we do, that will cause such incredible changes in our economy, in our country. Can you imagine damn near eliminating the income tax or certainly reducing it?
Beautiful would that
enormously,
be?
Yeah.
Oh, that would change. You talk about getting to the hearts and minds of the voters.
Yeah.
All the voters.
That's right.
Do we have time to go into this? No. Why don't we take Sandra? We got Sandra. Hi, Sandra. How are you? Hello.
And happy birthday, belated birthday, Dick and Doug.
Thank you.
Everything like
not
that.
me, not my birthday.
I know. Okay, I wanted to say two things. One, a question to Dick second, but the first thing, whenever something terrible happens, like what happened with Sarah Bockstrom and Andrew Wolf, and that beautiful, appropriate testimony that Roxanne shared, I always wait to hear what they're going to say on the other side, what kind of words of wisdom. And I was very not surprised to learn that it was Debbie Wasserman who spread that horrible rumor that it's the Trump administration that caused those two people to die.
Oh, my God.
So Deborah Wasserman, she has no credibility. She was on CNN saying it's Trump's fault. So she's the one who spread that stupid rumor. So I wanted to get that off my chest.
You know why, Sandra? The people listening to these news programs are just uninformed and not very smart. Right. So they listen to anything. Go on, I'm sorry.
Right.
I mean, it's like you send the cops to catch the robbers. The robbers ambush the cops and kill them, and it's your fault for sending the cops in.
Yeah, right. Good.
So Roxanne had the appropriate response. Deborah Schultz had the inappropriate, cruel response. So then I learned about a month ago, Dick, this is for you, Donald Trump wrote a letter requesting to President Herzog that, Netanyahu be pardoned.
Right.
So then I learned that it's a process. His letter alone is not going to do it. Part of the process is Netanyahu has to himself say, please pardon me. Well, he did. I read that he did. So is this going to happen?
Wow.
Well, yeah, if he's willing to do that, it probably will.
Wow, I love just hearing this.
I didn't know that Netanyahu had done that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
And he should be, and then shove it up mayor, the dark, what is it?
Oh, the nightmare.
The nightmare.
of New York.
Yeah.
The day and
Thank
nightmare.
you, Sandra. We love you.
We love you.
And we have to go to break, and we'll see you on the other side.
And after all of their environmental policies and all of his ranting and raving against energy sources, California is running out of power.
When we get back.
Blackouts.
Yeah, so people in California might not hear the rest of our show.
That's right.
Okay, when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
California Energy.
Wait, what show is this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome back to the Dick Morris, Doug DiPirro Show.
And who's paying our
the Patriot
our
Gold
ride?
Group, the Sainted Patriot Gold Group. So California is running out of power, and they're going to be roving blackouts and less energy for California. Since 2018, more than 360 energy companies have left California due to the state's debilitating regulations, and new oil drilling permits have fallen by 95% since Newsom took office.
Wait, 95%? That's almost all the permits.
Almost all of them.
Bye-bye.
He's basically stopped oil drilling in
Basically.
California.
Okay, that's great.
And that includes offshore,
Right.
where there's a lot.
So don't forget, let there be light. Let there be dark.
As a result, California has produced nearly 128 million fewer barrels of oil per day over the past 5 years. And despite having the fifth largest petroleum reserves in the country, the undeniable consequence of Newsom's refusal to support domestic production is a far higher reliance on foreign oil. In 1982, less than 6% of California's oil came from outside the United States. Now it's over 60%.
Wow.
Brazil now accounts for 20% of California's supply, and 21% comes from Iraq.
Hold on, let me just say this. So, because of his ecology bull crap, right? Oh, I don't want to drill, and we can't. But you're getting it from Brazil and from Iraq.
Yeah.
They're still drilling.
That's right.
And you know that they don't have regulations like we do. We drill a lot cleaner. So go on.
By early 2026, the state is projected to lose nearly 20% of its refining capacity without urgent action. Blackouts, price strikes, and fuel shortages are going to become the norm for California.
Wow.
And this will, in the course of it, stop data centers from developing in California.
So there goes AI and
there
everything.
goes the Silicon Valley. Because the energy supply will not suffice.
You talk about a snowball, no heat. It's going to be a big snowball.
This drastically impacts the viability of California's pipelines, most of which require 90,000 barrels a day in production to remain financially solvent and operational. However, due to shortages, they are barely operating at 50,000 barrels a day, causing $2 million in losses.
$2 million
in losses.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, Crimson Midstream, the operator of California's largest crude oil pipeline network, cannot sustain its operations because of Sacramento's ineptness. California Democrats' war on domestic energy production has created so much uncertainty that the San Pablo Bay pipeline is now at risk of shutting down next year, further destabilizing California's fragile energy supply chain and jeopardizing refinery capacity already hanging by a thread.
What's he going to do? Use the pipeline so he can have water for when there's forest fires?
That's right. And he'll also buy all this from abroad.
What they're still doing what they're doing. They're still drilling. They're still doing everything.
Right.
And you're still using it.
It's basically Newsom facing the consequences of his policies.
Nuisance.
Yeah.
This guy's a moron. Let's take some phone calls. What do you say, Dick? Patrick in, where is he? In Indiana?
Wabash, Indiana.
Oh, how you doing, Patrick?
Okay, and I'm calling to implore you, Dick, to tell President Trump that the Constitution says that the Supreme Court has authority over domestic affairs, but the President, Article 4, Section 4, has authority over foreign affairs.
Yep.
And the John Marshall Court, Supreme Court, in 1801, in the case,
we know that. Yeah, you're correct.
Versus
yeah, that's probably why the court is going to side with Trump over the tariff issue.
Wow, that's pretty good, Patrick.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good for you. Thanks for the research.
Also need to tell him that Mamdani needs to be deported because he agrees with international law, and that's opposed to our law. It's never been international law.
Well, we listen. Mamdani is
Mankami.
He's the best gift the Republican Party has ever had.
And I just saw an ad the other day. I call him Mankami. That said, okay, I told you don't have to send money. Now I need you to send money again for my inauguration and for my administration. Whoa, what happened to the free stuff? Now there's no free stuff anymore?
Yeah.
Listen to this.
November, but I'm still saying yes to your donations. So head to transition2025.com, pitch in whatever you can. Let's win a city that everyone can afford.
There he goes. That's what he's talking
That's
about.
the socialist mayor. Yeah.
What happened to the, I don't need your money?
He wants a free bus ride from Gracie Mansion to his office, even though it's in the same building.
And the heat's not so good, so I want more heat. And then when it's cold, warm, I need air conditioning. That's okay. Socialist. Unbelievable. So where are we going? We're ready to take
when we come back, we talked about the problems with Obamacare. Is Trump going to subsidize it and use some of that money to bail out these insurance companies? No way.
You think no way? I think he's going to do a little bit. No, good. We'll talk about it when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. When the pandemic hit, the federal government that was administering Obamacare basically said all bets are off. Anybody who wants coverage can get it. And they, on an emergency basis, covered tens of millions of people who were not otherwise eligible for Obamacare. The question now is, will they remain on Obamacare or will they be removed now that the pandemic is over? In the months after the pandemic, the year after the pandemic, the administration cut the number of Obamacare enrollees by about 5 to 10 million. I forget the exact figure.
Wait, does it start over at what?
When the pandemic ended.
Right.
And the emergency, they reviewed the emergency applications and cut back about 10 or 15% of it.
Is this Biden now? Or?
Biden.
Right, okay.
Now the question is, the Democrats want to continue those subsidies and not continue to make cuts. And eligibility for the Obamacare subsidies, which were put in place during COVID-19 pandemic to help people afford health insurance, would be capped at 700% of the federal poverty level. The Democrats are now proposing.
What does that mean? 700% of the federal poverty. What does that mean?
Well, it means almost all of the middle class. The federal poverty level now is about $25,000 a year per person. So this would be almost everybody under 100,000 would be eligible for Obamacare. And that's what the Democrats want. And most of the people are currently receiving Obamacare. And the question is, will that continue? And Trump is now considering pronouncing healthcare reform, basically giving money to the people, not the insurance companies. But he's indicated that he's considering a 2-year phase-in of that and phasing out the premium increases and switching them over to the people from the insurance company.
So 2 years is good. That I get it. You could figure out how to deal with it within 2 years.
Well, it's basically also to appease the Democrats in Congress.
All right.
And to get their sign-in on this.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to beat the people up either. He's giving them 2 years to figure out, either get a job or do what you got to do, to try to make this work.
Yep.
Amazing.
So Taiwan is strengthening its defenses against China.
Beijing's hybrid war tactics are fueling fierce blowback in Japan and the Philippines, two U.S. allied island nations ideally suited for Chinese encirclement or blockade of Taiwan. the emplacement of medium-range air defense systems is happening. Deployment can help lower the chance of an armed attack on our country. But a long-term movement, Japanese military units are shifting from Russia facing Hokkaido in Japan's north of the China facing Ryukyus. I had to figure that out. Ryukyus in the southwest. Mr. Koizumi's appearance over the weekend underscored that shift. There is some restraint, but this is still pushback, said Drew Thompson, a senior fellow at Roger Appman School. Oh, why you give me all these words I gotta figure out? Why do I gotta do that to me? It's a sign that Japan will not be intimidated. Since 2016, Japan has been expanding its military presence across the islands, with new bases coming online in 2024. Ishigaki hosts anti-ship missile batteries, while Miyako, dominating the deep waters of Miyako Strait, is home to a range of military facilities. The missile unit being emplaced in Yanaguni joins radar and electronic warfare bases. Japan's self-defense forces are not alone in this area. Okinawa is a key regional U.S. Marine hub. Across the Indo-Pacific, Marines tasks are expanding from beach assault to little defense using mobile, long-range rocket artillery and drones. Chinese media have fretted that expanded runways on the island could accommodate the F-35B short takeoff and landing stealth fighter. Great plane, boy. The developments present massive headache for Chinese admirals as the Ryukyu dominates strategic straits on Taiwan's northeastern flank.
In about 2006, I was hired to represent the faction in Japanese politics that favors a strong defense. Ever since World War II, the Japanese have been reluctant to expand their military capacity, even as China looms in threats.
Well, when did our restrictions end with Japan? They couldn't do anything for, 50 years? Or
No, they were allowed to, but they haven't. There's a strong anti-military feeling in Japan. For example, that they're opposed to any testing of nuclear weapons because they've been the victims of it.
Sure.
So but now with China increasing the pressure on Taiwan and threatening an invasion, the Japanese are saying, hey, wait a minute, we need to be able to defend ourselves and we need to be able to counter what China is doing. In the 2010s, Koizumi was elected Prime Minister of Japan, and I was involved in that campaign. And his son is now the defense minister in the new government in Tokyo. And increasingly, you're seeing Taiwan asserting itself. Japan asserting itself in the defense of Taiwan. And this is an important pushback on what the Chinese communists are doing.
Well, because if China gets Taiwan, that's going to have some implications on Japan. Eventually, they're going to have to worry about they're getting stronger and stronger.
Now, after the mayoral elections in New York and the governor election in Virginia and New Jersey, the Democrats have been pushing the idea that affordability is the new issue and that people can't afford to live. They can't afford to live at the level they're doing now.
It's more like they can't afford to live in blue states.
And now the conservatives are saying that electricity, gasoline, rent, and taxes, the costs are more burdensome in blue states. In 9 of the 10 highest blue cost states are run by the left.
9 out of 10.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The only one that's not is I forget. Last week, the left-wing Washington Post columnist, Fareed Zakaria, who I like a lot, opened his CNN show by repeating the riff that if America has an affordability crisis, it tends to be in places that Democrats govern, like New York, Illinois, and California, which all feature high taxes, soaring housing costs and stagnant outcomes.
And no electricity for California.
Yeah, that's right. New York State mirrors the city. Its spending has gone from roughly $70 billion in 2000 to $230 billion today.
That's 3 times.
About twice Florida's budget, even though Florida has several million more residents. When voters see that record, they conclude not unreasonably that mere money is not the answer. Yet the Democrats' instinctive response to every problem remains the same. Spend more.
Yeah, of course.
The truth is that local government in the U.S. is already living on borrowed time. For decades, states and cities have traded short-term political harmony for long-term financial ruin. To keep peace with the powerful public sector unions, they promise ever more lavish pensions and benefits, and then quietly defer the bill to future taxpayers. Across America, these obligations act like slow-motion fiscal time bombs, invisible for now, but guaranteed to explode. Meanwhile, daily governance suffers. In too many Democratic strongholds, regulation has metastasized into paralysis. Housing is unaffordable because local zoning codes, environmental reviews, rent control, and union carve-outs make construction painfully slow and expensive. And add to that the burden of illegal immigrants. About 10% of the high costs of housing in the United States are due to illegal immigrants. If we didn't have them and they were out of the country, we wouldn't have to pay to house them.
I could see the meeting with the Democrats and say, okay, listen, we got the unions over here. We got to help you guys out. You pay for this. We'll make sure you get that. And then the meeting is, well, where are we going to get the money? We'll just tax more taxes. We'll get it from the people walking in with regular jobs.
Which is vast improvement over what they used to do.
They're buying votes with our money.
Which is borrow the money. Yeah. They've stopped that. Now they just tax
Taking it. Yeah, right.
California has spent $24 billion on homelessness over 5 years.
Wow.
Yet the problem is only worsened. More is spent per mile on subway construction in New York than any other city on earth. Each new initiative layers another bureaucracy on top of the last.
$24 billion. You're spending $24 billion. With $24 billion, that's California, right? With $24 billion, you could build a couple of beautiful, gigantic buildings, put all those people in the building and be done with it. But what do? They give out $1,000 here, $2,000 here. What goes in somebody's pocket becomes $24 billion. Where'd that money go?
Yeah.
I want to know where that money went with the homeless.
And if they did
they still have tents.
If they did that, each of the beautiful new buildings you're talking about
garbage.
Themselves would become slums.
Of course, which it does. But
right.
Where's that $24 billion in, 5 years? I want to see what a $24 billion is. Unbelievable.
So much of that is rent subsidies to help them live in housing that they can't afford.
I get that.
And we can't afford to pay for.
No, but I understand that, but this doesn't make sense. I'd like to see where those numbers are. And Trump's opposing the FCC expansion of the leftist cable. This is pretty good. President Trump came out swinging against his own FCC chairman over plans that would allow major TV networks to significantly expand their national reach. No expansion of the fake news networks. He's saying that, right? If anything, make them smaller, Trump said. The story reported that the network opposes a merger plan involving Nexstar, which is seeking to acquire Tegna. I don't know how you say it, Tegna. Tegna. The deal would create the nation's largest TV station group with 244 stations across 44 states. Nexstar operates the liberal-leaning news channel News Nation, hosted by Chris Como in prime time. The company leans heavily Democrat, with Nexstar employees have given 78% of the donations to Kamala in the 24 election. President Ronald Reagan established a TV ownership cap in 1980 to prevent large networks from controlling most local stations and, by extension, local news. Congress later raised the cap to 39%. Nexstar is now urging the FCC to ignore the cap, disregard federal law and allow the company to reach more than 80% of the U.S. households. Responding to those concerns, Trump wrote, if this would also allow the radical left networks to enlarge, I would not be happy. ABC and NBC, in particular, are a disaster. I love the way he talks. Are a disaster, a virtual arm of the Democratic Party. He added that the major networks should be viewed as an illegal campaign to the radical left. That's the boss, isn't it?
Yep, it sure is. And that's key, because he actually opposed the action of his own appointed FCC, which had been, for some reason, whether bought off or not, supporting this expansion. And it meant that it would have elevated, many left-wing news cable stations to the status of networks.
You know, I think there's a lot of people, well, it's always been this way, that think, oh, the boss isn't going to see this. Let's just do this. But he sees everything. When I tell you the other day when I was with him in Mar-a-Lago, he would see everything. We would walk through and I'd show him the artwork that I'm doing, and he'd go, oh, that's great. Can you do this over here? And then all of a sudden, in the middle of, has nothing to do with what we're doing, our work, but he talks to me like a construction guy, and we talk about a lot of different things. And he goes, I like what you're doing with the blue and the red with look at that crack up there. You see that thing up there? I told these guys, and he starts talking about the shifting of the foundation. The guy doesn't miss a trick at all.
And it's amazing his grasp of policy. People say who was brighter, Trump or Clinton. Hands down, Trump is brighter.
It's more common sense, too. He's a builder. It was common sense. He didn't have to know how the truck works and the gear system in the truck, but he knows that truck has to get those things, that material over to that building. Sometimes that's just what it's about. It's not about knowing every single thing and policy right now. He knows who to put in place and what guy needs to go to Iran or here or there.
And have you noticed that in his second term now, there's a lot less turnover?
A lot less.
He's not firing people every day. Susie Wiles has made the staff settle down.
Yeah.
Chief of staff. Because
he had 4 years of that gap to say, how am I going to do this?
And who's not good and who's good.
That's right. 4 years. Like if he went right into the next term, that's what I said. This is one of the best things that happened. Number one, the contrast between Biden, the left, and then Trump, the right? But it was also great that he had 4 years to look at stuff. I said this when Biden was president, that this is good. If he comes in, he's got all this time.
It's almost like he was his own apprentice.
He was his own apprentice.
Yeah,
that's good. I love that he pardoned Rudy, right?
Yep.
What did he do with Rudy? He pardoned him on the Georgia thing? Was that it?
Well, no, that led to the case being thrown out. That was because of the Supreme Court. But yeah. But look at what he's done.
I love Rudy. If he's listening, I love you, Rudy. He doesn't call me back anymore.
He didn't call anybody back. Never has.
No, he used to call me back. Once in a while, he would call me back. But, he's busy. He's got a great podcast, too, now.
Oh, good.
So what are you doing? I think we should take our break.
Yeah.
Are we ready to take a break? Let's take a break. And when we get back, new Fed appointees.
Yeah, Trump is solving his interest rate problems by appointing new people to the Federal Reserve Board and outvoting Jerome Powell.
Mm-hmm. When we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
What show is this, Dick Morris?
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show. Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
All right, so the new Fed appointed. This is great. The new Federal Reserve Governor, Stephen Myron, could play a key role in next month's monetary policy decisions since the committee is splitting on whether to cut interest rates. Myron, who was appointed this fall by President Trump to fill an open seat on the Fed board, has voted against the Fed's decision to lower interest rates by 1/4 percentage point at the last two meetings. He instead has said he preferred a larger 0.5 percentage point cut, more on line with Trump's desire to see the Fed's target rate fall quickly. But now, given a divided Fed, he could end up being a critical or even tie-breaking vote, which is great. Okay, let's jump to the next story because we got to go, all right? We got things to do. Michigan's Secretary of State wants to let non-residents...
the worst public official in the country.
Yeah. As a result, for certain people who have never resided in Michigan or perhaps anywhere else in this country we talked about this earlier, are registering to vote and vote in Michigan elections. That's what this lawsuit says. Michigan election officials have registered persons to vote who have never resided in Michigan and have allowed them to vote in Michigan's state, local, and federal elections. It says adding, so the Secretary of State's guidance is both unconstitutional and unlawful. The lawsuit says Benson has used her executive authority to override the power of the state legislature and prevent them from amending the state constitution to allow people who do not reside in the state to vote. That's horrible.
You lose the state in 24, and then in 26 you pass a law saying non-residents can vote in the state.
So you're always going. So it's always going to keep. And how do you think that lawsuit's going to go?
I think that I think they'll stop the policy. They'll be able to override her.
Good. Okay.
Now, when Trump gets bad polling numbers, there's always a chance that he'll sue the pollster.
Listen, every time Dick, so many times Dick's writing the poll for Trump, and sometimes it's horrible. It says it's a great poll. You have to say, well, if you didn't like him because he did, and you mention all the stuff he did, that I go, don't tell the president that. Don't show him the questionnaire.
So Trump is suing Ann Seltzer, the pollster who said that he would lose Iowa in the 24 race. A spokesman for the Trump legal team said President Trump is committed to holding those who traffic in deception and fake news to account.
You should be.
The Des Moines Register in Gannett knowingly ran a phony poll from the now disgraced Democratic pollster Ann Seltzer in an underhanded attempt to intervene in the election and defraud the country into believing Kamala Harris was winning Iowa and nationwide mere hours before she lost Iowa and the overall election by an overwhelming margin to President Trump. The scam was designed to damage Trump's dominant campaign in the final days of the race. Such fraud cannot be allowed to stand, and President Trump is committed to seeing the case through to a just winning conclusion.
Man.
Don't phony up poll numbers at your peril.
Water it down, seltzer water.
Now, last week,
no one laughed at that.
Last week, or in the last 2 or 3 shows, we've talked at length about the changes going on in China. And we've talked about how China is increasingly losing to the United States in the economic growth area, and particularly in artificial intelligence and other areas like that. China is no longer really the threat that they were earlier. Now an expert named Robert Manning, who is a distinguished fellow with the Strategic Foresight Hub at the Stimson Center, has come up with a very interesting idea. He compares China's attitude toward the world with the stages of grief that psychologists have said people go through when they lose a loved one or when something horrible happens to them. He said, I used to gauge U.S.-China relationship the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. After passing through the first 2, Washington is hitting the 3rd. These have unfolded in direct proportion to China's emergence on the world stage. Its GDP grew from $310 billion in 85 to $18.8 trillion in 94.
Wow.
And moved up the ladder of civilian military technology. For too long, the United States was in denial, the first phase, assuming that China's economic reforms and opening would lead to the political liberalization also seen in South Korea or Taiwan, refusing to believe that China could ever get its act together enough to challenge the United States. Then toward the end of the Obama years and finally under Trump, the China shock reverberated. The consensus moved into the second stage, anger. China became utterly toxic in Washington. The most recent meeting between Trump and Xi suggests that the United States is moving beyond mere anger toward managing differences, but defining the terms of competition remain problematic. Beijing has been steadily decoupling, trying to achieve autonomous supply lines and influence economy from the insulated economy from the United States. This year, exports from China were up. Exports to the United States were down 27%, but exports to the rest of the world increased. Beijing has stepped up its efforts to reduce the role of the dollar, and a growing share of the trade of its goods and services is done in the yuan, more like 30% now. Beijing's growing sense of power and Trump's tacit acknowledgement of it are evident. China demonstrated its escalation dominance with the U.S., threatening to hold rare earth exports as well as other critical materials, and inflicting economic pain and boycotting U.S. soybeans. Trump seemed to grasp that the United States had underestimated China. We're entering the third phase of grief, bargaining. So the first phase is denial, the second phase is anger, the third is bargaining.
And Trump is the bargaining man.
U.S. has suspended the 10% tariffs added for China's fentanyl roll. And FBI Director Kash Patel said China is cooperating on stop exports of fentanyl precursor chemicals. Trump has also agreed to suspend heightened reciprocal tariffs, suspended the addition of dozens of Chinese companies that the Commerce Department added to its entity list, which limits exports of U.S. technology, and suspended maritime fees charged to Chinese ships in the U.S., and extended the exclusion of certain tariffs for a year. But that's what we gave China. For its part, China suspended the global implementation of its new export controls on rare earth minerals for a year, and pledged to issue general licenses to the U.S. for the export of several rare earth minerals. Artificial intelligence appears to be the center of the strategic rivalry. U.S. tech firms are on a quest for the holy grail of artificial general intelligence, but China offers a more practical open source model appealing to the global south.
What does that mean, global south?
The less developed countries, but also Korea and Singapore and other areas like that. Mm-hmm. Perhaps the biggest takeaway from the meeting between Trump and China's leader was a mutual commitment to a continuing process of dialogue to manage implementation of the deal and, more broadly, the bilateral relationship. So he asked the question, where does this lead? These developments appear a significant step forward toward managing competition, perhaps starting to define the terms of what had been an unbounded context. They bypassed the issue of Taiwan, and they ducked a lot of the trade issues that were very important.
You know, I got to say this, as far as the competition of who comes first or who gets the technology, whether it's AI or this other stuff. We got Musk. I mean, that's important. This guy, Elon Musk, is working on all this stuff. Yeah. I mean, he's got the money, too. He's got the money like a country.
And bounding ahead. The U.S. is developing a huge lead now in artificial intelligence that China dominated. It's increasingly catching up and now surpassing China in electric vehicles and stuff like that. And Beijing may now realize it overplayed its hand when it flaunted its dominance of critical minerals with its micromanaging of new export controls that threatened to hold the world hostage on all electronics, phone, laptops, auto manufacturers, and much else. China didn't seem to grasp that it was freaking out the whole world. The U.S. deal may presage a stepping back. On balance, however, I suspect that Trump's Xi meeting reflects an evolution of the bilateral relationship. The U.S. may be coming to terms with the reality of its predicament, and China may be beginning to grasp both its strengths and the limitations of the situation. So it's an optimistic view of the U.S.-Chinese relationship. So last week and the week before.
Well, wait. This is very important. One sentence you left out. Whether it reverts back to the mean or its momentum pulls the bilateral relationship towards a stable equilibrium is anyone's guess. Let me tell you, and maybe this is naive on my part, it would be so much easier if China said, I'll work with you guys. And they work together and the whole world would be a beautiful place. What's this deal here?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, well,
is it the control thing of one guy sitting in the seat?
Really, we started it. When Trump became president for the second time, he said, I'm going to end this era of China ripping off the United States.
Yeah, that's good.
And he imposed big tariffs and used that to bluff China out of its tariffs. China retaliated by saying, I'm going to cut off rare earth minerals.
Right.
Trump's retaliating by finding and creating new rare earth minerals.
Which we've been working on.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And other countries are acting against China because of this. Mm-hmm. And now what he's saying is that China's coming to terms with this and accepting the fact that the U.S. is fighting back and really changing.
So basically he didn't give him a knockout punch. He punched them, they fell to the ground. All right, now get up, I'll help you up, I'll buy you some macaroni, let's be partners. My boy Chuck Zito, one time he had a fight with some guy, it was a news guy, and he said some horrible stuff to him. He went down to the city, right? Got on his bike, went down to the city, went over to the guy, knocked the dude out. He didn't really knock him out. He hit him hard. This guy went down. I can't tell you his name. And then he picked him up. He goes, all right, get up. Come on, I'll buy you dinner. And he bought him spaghetti. You know what I mean? Like a real Italian. And he talked. He goes, listen, this is that's what Trump did with China.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy, wasn't it, Dick?
Yeah, that
You're a little nervous about it? Dick gets nervous when I talk like
I didn't know where that was going to land.
When I talk about the Hells Angels or some of my bad dude friends.
Yeah.
What he does. It's what you do. After like the guy that put my convertible top up, the guy, right. I bring my beautiful car. We go to Thanksgiving thing. I come out and I had the top down. It was a beautiful day. And I give him a good tip to park the car in a nice spot.
The car was your Bentley.
Not to say what kind of car it was. All right. So anyway, the top is down. Give him some money to take care of it. I come out and the top is up. I go, oh, what's the top up? And he just looks up at the sky. And then he gives me a stare down. I go up to him, I go, you don't touch a man's car like that ever. You do. You come inside, you look for me. And he gave me a stare down. If this kid would have said, listen, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. All right, kid, don't do it again, you moron. Okay, that's all right. I'm not going to say anything. But I wanted to knock this dude out. He was a little kid. What am I going to do? 20-year-old, right? A 64-year-old guy ain't knocking me out. A 64-year-old old man beats up a 20-year-old football player. That wouldn't go well with it. But that's it. You knock the kid down, then you pick him up. Go, all right, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
There are major developments going on in cancer in the United States. The number of cases of cancer has increased, but that's because people are surviving the disease, and the survival rate is much higher. 10% of adults reported having been diagnosed with cancer during the 24-25 period, a sharp increase from 7% reported a year before. For several years, from 2010 to 2015, the rate hovered just above 7%, but then began a steady climb over the decade. American Cancer Society reports that overall cancer mortality has fallen by 1.7% each year between the last 10 years. 5-year cancer survival rates have also improved significantly, rising from 63% for people diagnosed in 95 to 97 to 69% of those diagnosed in the ensuing 6-year period. So more Americans are surviving cancer but then in return, more Americans are getting cancer because they've survived. So I feel, as someone who is a cancer survivor myself, I've come to believe it's almost like a second life. It's almost like God gives you a second chance at life, and your priorities change, your whole outlook on the world changes. Sure. And it's a very positive and important thing.
Well, it's also the medical community does better when you have cancer and they just manage it for 10 years or 20 years, whatever they can, not cure it. They don't want a cure. Listen, when I crashed on my motorcycle, I'm supposed to be dead, and it changed my whole, before that, I used to say, I don't care, I'm not going to make it till 60, who cares, stupid and whatever. When you're sitting in the hospital thing and the priest comes and does the last rites and you realize, whoa, you change. Just like you and me, I look at things differently. Don't step on anyone's toes. Don't hurt anyone.
Become a survivor.
Yeah, and not to hurt anyone. That's the main thing.
Speaking of survivor, Letitia James, what do you call her?
LaShysta
James. And Jim Comey be re-indicted.
They will.
After a federal court ruled that Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor, was illegally appointed, the indictments of Letitia James and James Comey were dismissed. Can they be re-indicted, even though the statute of limitations has run out on Comey? It's unknown whether the courts will allow another indictment of Comey, though federal law appears to mandate, and I'm quoting the statute now, whenever an indictment or information charging a felony is dismissed for any reason after the period of the statute of limitations has expired, the new indictment may be returned in the appropriate jurisdiction within 6 calendar months of the date of the dismissal.
What does that mean, an appropriate jurisdiction? They could change it, or they could, what does that mean? It has to stay within jurisdiction.
But it basically means Comey and James are still in the dock.
It was almost like the timeline is in a stay. Because it was thrown out, doesn't mean 2 months later the statutes run out. It doesn't. It basically.
So when we come back, will the Democrats take the Senate? How will the 28 elections go?
Depends on the Supreme Court and what they do with this tariff thing.
More other stuff, but we'll talk
when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
And I didn't have to push him to say any of that.
You've heard of the 7-year itch, where after 7 years with a person, you begin to think about divorce. Well, the Democrats are hoping...
Not the 7-inning itch?
But the Democrats are hoping there'll be a 6-year itch. And they will favor them in taking control of Congress. The 6th year of a presidency typically produces brutal results for the incumbent president's party. But everything about Trump is unconventional. At the start of Trump's second term, Democrats saw 26 as a chance to regain the House majority, requiring just a 3-seat shift. A 4-seat gain was needed in the Senate, but that seemed out of reach. Since 1968, Bill Clinton is the only president who did not suffer a big Senate loss in his 6th year in office. Democrats held even in 98. Public sentiment has shown that Trump is in a steady dive in approval ratings. Three polls in the last week showed his approval with independent voters below 30%. But Trump is actually doing better than the news stories suggest. His job approval among voters, Democrat, Republican, Independents, is still at 45%, dropping from 47%.
Well, hold on. That's exactly what you just said. It's exactly the problem. What the news are reporting.
Yep.
He's doing better, but the news is saying, oh, we're having a problem. Go on. I'm sorry.
So the question now, and God knows who's going to win the House. It depends on last minute economic and other data. Sure. But I think the economy is doing very well, and I think that the media is saying it's doing very poorly, and I think the juxtaposition of the two is helping the Republicans in Congress.
I mean, we have time. There's some time for this to happen, and hopefully the Supreme Court, whatever they rule, right,
on tariffs,
goes our way. And then people are going to see, the economy's doing better. People are going to see it happening in their pockets, the gas prices.
And prices are coming down.
Prices are coming down.
Now.
So this amount of time, actually, it's probably pretty good that it's now that this is happening, because it's a shakeup. And all of a sudden, if things start to happen in January, February, March, April, and people start to see by springtime, spring cleaning,
But let's go back to the Senate and see if the Democrats can take the Senate. Democrats must first suspend 2 seats in states that Trump won last year, Georgia and Michigan. Now, they've got some shot in Michigan, but the Democrats are not going to take back Georgia.
They're not?
No.
Good.
Georgia is a Republican state and will stay that.
Good.
As well as New Hampshire, a swing state. Then, after they defend 2 seats in the states Trump won last year, the Democrats then have to sweep 2 of the remaining 5 seats that are on the table. Democrats would need to win 2 of 5 states that last year decisively voted in Trump's favor. Hear that again. Democrats would need to win 2 of 5 states that decisively were in Trump's favor.
So that's going to be a bit of a problem.
And that would be Ohio, which they're not going to carry, Alaska, which they might because it's flaky, Iowa, which they're not going to carry, Texas, which they always fantasize about, but they're not going to carry it, and Kansas, which I don't think they're going to carry.
So you got Ohio and maybe Kansas? Is that? Oh no, Ohio and Alaska. Did you say?
Alaska really is the only one that I'm worried about.
Oh, okay, and they have to get 2 of these 5.
Republicans have incumbents running in 4 of these 5 states. The party's also rallying behind a nominee to replace Joni Ernst in Iowa, and I'm increasingly confident they'll keep that state. And this is important. Of the 25 states that voted for Trump all 3 times, 96, 00, and 04, and 24.
Wait, you're talking about Trump?
Trump.
So you're talking
3 states that he won 3 times. There are 25 states that he won 3 times.
Right.
And in those 25 states, Republicans hold all 50 of the Senate seats.
Wow.
So it's going to be any push to a majority requires the Democrats to win at least a couple of those. And I don't think they're going to win these. I think that the Senate is basically looking pretty safe. The Congress, the House is up for grabs depending on what the latest data is. But Trump's progress on tariffs, the likelihood of a rebate being passed, the progress on trade issues that Trump talked about, his feeling that tariffs are just beginning to take effect. This could be a very important turning point for Trump. And I think that very likely Trump is going to do extremely well over the next year. And I think that's going to be a decisive factor in the election. Now,
this judge dismisses criminal case versus Trump in Georgia.
Yep.
The criminal case against Donald Trump in Georgia is officially dead. Thank you. Scott McAfee, the judge overseeing the case, accusing Trump of conspiring to overturn his loss in the state in the 2020 presidential election, dismisses all remaining charges Wednesday. That move came shortly after the lead prosecutor who took over the case earlier this month decided he could not advance the case any further. There is no realistic prospect that a sitting president will be compelled to appear in Georgia to stand trial on the allegations in this indictment, wrote Peter Skandalakis. I don't know how you say that one. Supervising prosecutor who assigned himself the case after failing to find another district attorney to take it over.
Yep.
Donald Trump's current term as president of the United States of America does not expire until January 20th, 29. By that point, 8 years will have elapsed since the alleged crimes in question. The collapse of Georgia's case against Trump ends the last remaining criminal prosecution he faced stemming from his effort to subvert the 2020 election. Special counsel Jack Smith's federal case against him was dismissed last year after Trump won re-election. Thank goodness
God.
gracious.
Yeah. Now, talking about 26, Stephen Moore, the economist,
Yep, I like that
said
guy.
on Tuesday that the U.S. economy has shown steady strength throughout Donald Trump's second term. And we need to hear this because of all the dire predictions the liberal media feeds us. Trump's second term, Moore said, is positioned for what he called a blockbuster year in 26, as the administration's tax and regulatory policies begin to take effect. Moore, a senior economic advisor during Trump's first term, said that real income gains have been very solid for middle-class households, and noted the lower-income Americans have also made some pretty good gains this year. He pushed back on claims that consumers lack disposable income, arguing that spending patterns heading into the holiday season tell a very different story. The idea that people don't have the money to spend is not true, Morris said, while acknowledging that food, housing, and healthcare costs remain elevated. He pointed to sustained consumer activity and lower fuel prices in many states. You got $2.69 a gallon gas in a lot of places. The American economy is just fine right now. Moore credited Trump's economic agenda, particularly the administration's new round of tax reductions and regulatory rollbacks, for what he described as durable growth. These policies will exert an even larger impact in 2026 as provisions increasingly take effect. I think 2026 is going to be a blockbuster year as the tax cuts kick in and the deregulations. You're talking about a guy who's very confident about a really strong economy that will even be stronger next year. When asked about strong Black Friday and holiday season spending, Moore said consumer behavior contrasts with what Americans tell pollsters about their personal finances. He described the gap between government surveys, which have shown pessimism, and government data on wages and spending. What people are saying to pollsters and what they're actually doing are somewhat different. Yay, particularly in light of the situation with the House that we talked about for 28.
I mean, I see it. And, you can't watch the news. And the lefts are watching the news that are telling them no. It's horrible. Anyway, when we get back, where are we going, Dick? We're jumping all over the place.
Lutnick says that he believes that the tariff revenues will increase, predicts the $2,000 tax rebate will pass.
Good.
This year.
When we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Do I got to push you on the intro, Dick?
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
You're going to love this story. Liberals are not getting married and not having children. Oh, this is great. I love this story.
That's why I'd like to lower the voting age to 2.
We've noted, this is so gay. This is great. We've noted this family gap between liberals and conservatives over the past several years, and the latest data show the division is widening. Yay. Conservatives are now getting married and having children substantially higher rates than liberals, and the gap is growing. Today, a liberal woman is about 27% less likely to be married than a conservative woman. Yeah, once they figure how men could have children, then they'll be okay. But that ain't happening yet. A liberal woman is now about 33% less likely to have kids than was true 40 years ago, and she's more than 44% less likely to have kids than a conservative woman now. This is one of many reasons that red states are seeing their population grow so much faster than blue states. All of this suggests that conservatives may eventually gain the upper hand politically via reproduction, unless the schools turn their kids against them, which they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, but only to 25. In the polling you and I have done, they say there's a cliff at age 25.
Yeah, because now they're seeing their paychecks.
You get indoctrinated as a liberal when you're 20 and 22.
Because money doesn't matter as much.
By 25, reality kicks in.
Right.
And you become more conservative.
And then the other thing was also COVID and lockdown, and kids couldn't go to school and get their sports things going on. So that was also big. But what is worse than some is that both our popular culture and our public schools are teaching our children not to have kids when they become adults.
That's why the real change that's going on that we need to follow and support is the voucher system for education, which breaks the monopoly that the unions have over public education. And it stops the indoctrination of kids early in their lives. And
whatever happened with Trump wanting to do the Trump school or whatever. What was that?
He hasn't moved on that yet. But what he has passed is the voucher for charter schools.
Right.
And for homeschooling. And
that's within your community, though. You're not going to travel to another state. That you have to have voucher schools that are like if I'm in Yonkers.
Yeah. But the thing is that when Trump got the bill passed, the Democrats insisted on the provision making the tax credit optional if the governor didn't want it. The governor has that power. And a loss in New Jersey and Virginia means that they're not going to have voucher systems in those states. And that's part of breaking the monopoly of the unions over education. Now, we leave the world of projection and of what we expect for the real world on Black Friday. And this year has shown tremendous improvement in retail sales. This isn't projection. This is reality.
This is Black Friday, right?
Black Friday has become a nice Friday for us. And
I'm sorry. Black Friday may no longer be the retail, how do you say that word? Bacchanalia. Yes, it's Drunken Roman Festival. I know what it is. I can't say the word. Of the years past, and the event still has enough enthusiasts to make it bigger shopping days in the U.S. For that reason, the day retains its crown as the official start of the holiday shopping season. This year's kickoff comes as companies navigate an uncertain economic environment and wrestle with the volatility of Trump's wide-ranging tariff on imported goods.
But the last few weeks of November have been very good. And mall traffic headed into Black Friday surpassed the numbers from even pre-pandemic 2019. A forecast from the National Retail Federation, the nation's largest retail trade group, predicted a healthy increase in holiday sales, estimating shoppers would collectively spend 4% more than they spent last year.
1.1 trillion and that's last year, and 1.2 trillion in November and December. Pretty unbelievable. Retail's rung up $976 billion on holiday sales last year, or 4.3 increase from 2023. MasterCard Spending Pulse, which tracks spending across all payment methods, including cash, predicted a 3.6 increase in the holiday sales November 1st through the 24th. That compares with 4.1 from last year.
Nicolas Maduro's days are numbered as a president, as dictator in Venezuela. And there are reports that he has contacted Turkey. We have no extradition treaty with Turkey. And he may flee to Turkey and hang out there for the rest of his life.
He's a Turkey.
Yeah.
Because Trump basically boats outside. Listen, come and take a swim.
Trump has dramatically increased our military presence in the Caribbean.
Unbelievable.
And sunk 70 or 80 boats that were drug trafficking boats. And he's now beginning land operations from the air, not boots on the ground, in Venezuela. And the more he closes in on Maduro and cuts off the flow of drug money into Venezuela,
the more Maduro shakes.
The more Maduro wants to leave town.
Yeah, he's shaking in his booties.
And I think you're seeing a fundamental transformation going on in the Caribbean. Thank goodness. Yep.
Unbelievable, Dick Morris. This was a great show. Do I always have to say it every year? Every week? Every year? It's been an honor to be here with you, cool. Dick Morris.
This is true.
We can't talk about it. Dick did some beautiful things last week. I know we're not going to talk about it. When I can, I'm going to talk about it. Everyone just wait. Just wait. Maybe
there's an election coming up. There's an election going on right now.
In Honduras.
And that's going to be kind of the last main stand of Maduro.
And Tito Asfora, fantastic guy. He's going to win. He's going to win.
Trump endorsed him.
We'll talk after everything's over. We could spill the beans. Thank you so much, and it's an honor once again.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?